I'm officially on family leave. This is going to be the last video before Bubs gets here, hopefully. Fingers crossed. But I have had so much time over the last sort of 12 to 24 hours to catch up on all the under-18s championships that I hadn't previously watched, which was not a lot of catch-up, but still, I'm loving the way that this mock draft looks. Boy, do I wish we had an open draft to go with because, and I'm going to do a video on this post-Bubs, by the way, about what the draft would look like with no academy or father-son picks available and what kind of machinations could take place there. Unfortunately, we've got to work with what we've got. Now, before we start, Oscar Allen is going to get West Coast pick 2. The AFL are going to manipulate it that way. I know a few of you in my comment section during the May draft went, we don't know that this is going to happen. We kind of do. Do I agree with it? No. But that doesn't mean it's not going to happen. So, West Coast have got pick 1 and pick 2. I mean, if you don't like it, I don't know what to tell you. But let's do this. Remember, no other trades or anything like that. The Carlton one for TDK, I am going to do starting in July, just as we kind of get a little bit more information around it. So, the Carlton pick is not here, but it probably will be for the July one. So, just keep an eye out for that. Let's begin. I have officially been converted and am on the Dyson Sharp bandwagon. I was last year, by the way. The start of this year was kind of a little bit, I want to see a little bit more. And then he kicked 4 goals and averaged 28 disposals so far throughout the national championships. And I went, yep, cool, awesome. Now, of course, what he could do if Harley is still there, and I'm going to believe that he is until I'm told otherwise, is that Dyson's going to be the guy that can get onto the bottom of the pack. Both of them are going to be able to become balanced bulls. For the Eagles, that neither of them are going to sit on the bottom of the pack. Both of them, I should say, should be able to burst from stoppage. You add in the ultra outside class of an Elijah Hewitt, and you have got a young core midfield there that should hopefully take West Coast forward in the years to come. It would be pretty exciting to see, but to all of the Dyson Sharp fans that have been in my comments lately, I'm officially with you all the way. I've got Willem going at number 2. I know that people are starting to drop off him, but we've got to get over this last name thing, guys. I've already done a video on it, so I'm not going to rant about it in this analysis, but I was so pumped to watch him in game 1. Had 27 disposals, took 7 marks. The kid's an athletic freak. I just don't see how you wouldn't want that around your footy club. I know that Fred Rodriguez is the only WA prospect likely to go in the top 10, so is there going to be that pull there? But West Coast don't really lose a lot of talent. Now, I know that's going to age horribly if Harley does request a trade. I understand that. But historically, they keep a lot of their interstate guys. I don't think it's a fait accompli that Fred goes here just because he's a WA guy. Could they want him? Absolutely they could. But I think the athleticness, the rawness, if Harley stays, he's got that connection there as well. Willem to West Coast is still making sense to me, and he's still playing really good footy and played midfield in the championship game. Tick! I said in my last month's video that Dan is the most complete midfielder in this draft. I still believe that is the case. Do you know what I love about him, though? And this is going to sound strange. I love how boring he is. Now, what I mean by that is that there is no overwhelming weakness to his game. Everything he does, he just does well with a minimal amount of fuss. And that can look boring. Like, for example, Lachie Neale. Now, Lachie Neale's not a great kick. I understand that. But Lachie Neale makes so many non-mistakes and good decisions that sometimes watching him can get a little bit boring. Say what you will about Bailey Smith and the way he turns the ball over. He's immensely enjoyable to watch, in my opinion. Annabelle is not that. He is just a guy that gets the job done every single time. Again, had another 28 disposals. He might just be the 28 disposal guy, to be perfectly honest with you. I love him. I really do. I don't understand a couple of you that were in the comments, and I see a lot of draft stuff on Reddit as well, that there are a lot of people out there, apparently, that are not great fans of this man. I have no idea why. He could, if he's not number 1, he's probably number 2 on my list of favourite draftees, to be honest, and that will be a video coming out. But he's bound for Brisbane, which I know is a little bit boring as well, and geez, how good would it be to just top up your list with top talent? But hey, the Hawks weren't allowed to get Ollie Greaves, so yay. Anyway, that's not Dan's problem. He'll join a Brisbane pretty stacked bloody midfield, to be perfectly honest with you, and let's be honest, probably thrive. It's perfectly obvious that Richmond are going to need a ruckman post Toby Nankervis. I don't think you're going to get one with the ceiling of CDT unless you go to another club, which is something Richmond could definitely do, to be perfectly honest. But with how clean this young man is below his knees. I think he had 21 hitouts, 18 disposals. I think on ESPN they called him the Tim English, which I don't really mind. Once he fills out, I still think there's a little bit of Brody Grundy in him, to be honest, as well. But what's really comforting about this guy is the fact that he moves so well around the ground, but he also never looks flustered in the ruck either. So, yes, it's going to take a while for him to come along as a premier ruckman. Not many 20-year-old ruckmen come out and dominate unless you're a unicorn like Luke Jackson. But I do think structurally, for where Richmond are in their rebuild and the way that their list is being constructed, I don't think you're going to get a better raw ruck talent than this naturally. So I think the Tigers can pick him up here. I have nothing really new to say about Zeke here. He's still left-footed. He's still slightly smaller. He's still, unfortunately, injured. Looks like he's going to try and play VFL footy in the back half of the year, so a couple of months away. So whether that's sort of August, July, those kind of areas. Fingers crossed that can happen because I'm pumped to see what he can do in 25. And look, this is probably going to be a good thing, to be honest, for the Suns, because if he keeps getting injured and falls down the draft board and clubs don't make Gold Coast pay up for him, well, that's dumb. I think you should be a 100% dickhead when it comes to the draft process. Make clubs pay. Just make them pay, guys. Definitely think at this choice, it's either Fred or Josh Lindsay for the Tigers. I've gone with Fred here. I just love the fact that Richmond throughout this rebuild can go with good ball users ahead of the footy. And I think Fred complements that beautifully. His numbers so far in the championships are not massively high, but the way that he can kick off both feet is a big tick. And I think in terms of him, Lawler, Taj Houghton, these kind of guys around the goals are going to create a lot of excitement for Richmond fans to come. Kicking a goal a game as well, which is nice, which we like in a big way. But also his Colts numbers are looking really good as well. But I think it's Fred or Josh. I'm going with Fred in this draft. And that speed as well. Yes, please. And also, he's called Fred. How do you not love that? This pick's actually the hardest one for me to do, which sounds strange, but come with me on this. Ollie Greaves is the man that I'm going with, obviously, as you can see on the screen. But they do have access to Kai Fincher under dubious circumstances, which I know St Kilda fans are going to get in the comments and go, yeah, but look at how we've been screwed in the past. I know, but still, you got to admit, it's kind of funny that you're able to do this. I know you missed out on Cam McKenzie and all these kinds of things, but still, it's just funny. Anyway, because they've got access to Kai Fincher, who is also a midfielder, getting two midfielders doesn't seem that productive, especially because they've got an overinflation of midfielders that are just fine, I suppose. Like, what are you going to do with Jack Steele if you draft two more midfielders? I understand that. But the undeniable talent of Greaves is still there. The kid is an absolute bull. He's a star. I love him, to be perfectly honest. And I think he adds a lot. You also got to bring in Mateus Filippo to that. But if they don't pick Greaves, do they want to go another small? Is it Noah Hibbins-Hargreaves that they go with? That's going to be hard to say. I think it's too hard to ignore the raw talent that is here, to be perfectly honest with you. And maybe they look other areas, bring more picks in, all those kinds of things to maybe look at a more offensive threat kind of player. I think he's too hard to ignore, to be perfectly honest, at this spot. If anyone tries to claim that they were on the Josh Lindsay bandwagon before I was, they're lying and they're wrong. 28 disposals again in his first national championship game. He has got a left foot for days. And if what he could add to the Bombers, who are kind of missing that user off half-back, and for the love of God, can we get Nick Martin on a half-forward flank, please? So if Lindsay goes in a half-back flank, Nick Martin goes forward of the ball, Essendon get a whole lot more dangerous. Make it happen, for crying out loud. Good decision maker. Questions coming into this year on whether he can find the footy. He's answered those in a big way. I love this. More of a pick on potential than results so far, but King's going to get a bid. He's just an athletic freak, and the numbers don't really say anything special, to be honest, but you're looking at what this kid could do, and a club that goes, if Sydney were for some stupid reason they're not going to, but say no, boy, do we have a raw product to work with. I know talking about these academy guys because of what they're going to bring, that doesn't change in terms of where they're going to end up. So kind of apologize to all the academy guys here, but fingers crossed with allies who have got 2 or 3 games to go, 3 games I think they've got to go, that we're going to be able to see King at his absolute best for everyone to kind of understand just what kind of talent this kid's got. One of my favorite types of players are the players that run around like a chicken with their head cut off, but They just go. Run, gun, go. Stuff it. I'll figure it out at some point. And Patterson's got a little bit of that, to be perfectly honest with you. As a halfback flanker, he is ultra damaging, ultra attacking. Ball use is a little inconsistent, but what I loved about that first championship game was the fact that he had quiet periods, but his impact per possession looked really strong, which is what we want. He's going to end up at the Suns, who of course have already got Noble, Rioli, Powell. Where is he going to fit in? Well, he doesn't need to fit in straight away. That's kind of the luxury of being an academy player. But they're going to get a quality youngster here. And Essendon, who is the team, I should say, that are bidding on these guys, are making some clubs pay. Love that for them. And then we get to Hibbins-Hargreaves, who had 18 and kicked 4 in the first championship game. And you might be wondering, Daz, based on that exposed form, how the hell does he slip to 11? Well, to be fair, hasn't played a whole lot of footy this year. Again, you can't judge someone just off one game, even though that's kind of what we're doing in this mock draft process. But also the fit for the Bombers is really good. Other clubs above might have a few more needs. Or also, by the way, by the time we get to, what are we going to be, July, he's probably going to be in that top 5 standing. So let's be real. But this is where he ends up. For the Bombers, what he would do alongside Nick Martin, hopefully what he would do alongside Isaac Kako would be super exciting. He does not need to be a midfielder, which suits the Bombers, by the way, who in this mock draft are drafting 2 non-midfielders, which helps considering that Sardis and Hobbs aren't getting around that midfield mix, regardless of whether you think they're good enough or not. That's what they were drafted for. But Deadeye around goals can add another offensive threat, which if you are a team that is going through a youth build, which the Bombers are, excitement is key. They nail both of those with Lindsay and Hargreaves here. My Hawks go with a key forward, which I know I did a couple of months ago. I didn't do last month, actually. I think I had Fred for the Hawks last month. But Aiden Schubert has been the best key forward so far in the National Championships. 3 games, he's kicked 7 goals, averaging over 15 disposals too, by the way. But what I want at the Hawks are the vice-like hands. This kid, seriously, reminds me so much of Mitch Lewis, but healthy, that it just makes me really excited. The fact that he can fly at the footy, the fact that he is so good in front of goal, and if the Hawks can't nail a Zach Butters, Harley Reid, or, well, apparently we're in the market for Sam Walsh as well, although those rumours seem to be lessening a little bit. If the Hawks do retain this pick, there is going to be so much quality tall forward stock, but right now, Schubert is number 1. His body looks the most AFL ready. He is the best contested player amongst those tall forwards. Here he is. Thank you very much. In his first championship game, Bo Adensol had 16 disposals and 7 of them were clearances, which is just nuts, by the way. In terms of where he's going to end up at the Suns, it's hard to say. Considering they've got these guys coming in, I actually think the Suns are going to do better in trading a few guys that are going to be around the fringes. Sam Flanders is the one that stands out, to be perfectly honest. But Bo is clean, which is nice. His impact per possession is high, which is going to help the Suns in a big way. It looks like Matt Rowley is going to sign on, so breaking into that midfield is going to be borderline impossible. This is a midfield, of course, that is struggling to get Touk Miller overwhelming midfield minutes, which is extraordinary. But he'll start out at the Suns. He'll probably do a really good job. I really like how clean he is, and if he can win some clearances forward of the ball, that could be a place where he adds some offensive, arrows to his quiver, if you will. Again, arguably had Toby in the first round before anyone else did, but hasn't really had the moments for WA in the national championships that you would hope for. Still averaging around that 18 disposal mark. Kicked a goal, I think, in the first game off the top of my head. Could be wrong about that. But what he's going to be able to do, in all honesty, is going to be impacting the ball away from the midfield. Because, again, it's going to be hard. Sarong, Brayshaw, Young, Bolton when he rolls through there. Guys like Neil Erasmus are potentially looking for deals somewhere else. So Toby's going to struggle to get in there. Is he going to be able to make an impact outside of the stoppage circa Murphy Reid? Wouldn't that be exciting? Him and Toby on the half-forward flanks potentially. Rolling through that Freo side's going to be really exciting. But another one that's going to end up at the Dockers, where he's going to get bid on, well, he's going to be determined probably by the form coming into the rest of the season. But as I always say, guys, if your biggest gripe with a mock draft is where the academy kids get bid on, I think I've done my job properly. Harley Barker is definitely going to be seen as a bolter here, I think, amongst most people. But the Bulldogs, especially on Marvel Stadium, but the Bulldogs love getting the ball out into open space, and having the premier wingman in this draft on their list would be super handy. You look at what Joel Frazier was able to do. Now, they got him way later than they had any right, to be perfectly honest with you. But adding Harley here would be awesome. Now, again, they're probably going to be in the race for Zach Butters this year. So if they get him, they're not going to have this pick. I perfectly understand that. And Harley's only averaging 16 disposals so far, but he has in the national championships. But he has a means of getting forward. He can hit the scoreboard. Defensive running looks pretty good, to be perfectly honest with you. And yes, this would be a total Bulldogs pick to go. Didn't see that coming, but makes sense. That's how I feel about it. Sam Grill ends up here at the Giants, which I think is going to be a lot lower down than a lot of other people have him. And look, I'm not saying that I'm off the Sam Grill train, not by any stretch. However, what I will say is his first championship game, he had 18 disposals. 2 of them were kicks. Now, if you are going to be this line breaker, if you are going to be this guy that looks impossible to tackle, we want those kick numbers up, obviously. Still a really good talent. I'm not denying that for a moment. And just want to see those awesome foot skills against, again, more kids his age. I understand that. A lot more people are going to have him a lot higher up, whether it's sort of power rankings or other mock drafts. And I'm sure that there are going to be those kind of people in my comments going, this is way too low, but this is where I've got him going. I want to see a little bit more production from Sam. I also think that the type that he could bring at the top level would suit a GWS midfield awesomely. Him and Finn Callahan together. Holy Moses. Sam Cumming for the Eagles might be a little bit of a strange pick, but I'm not drafting him for his midfield talent yet. This is a guy that, again, forward of the ball. Remember what I've said this entire draft process is if you are going through a youth build, which West Coast are, you're going to need guys who can make an impact forward of the ball. Dersma can do that. Dyson Sharp will help do that. Sam Cumming will do that, averaging 17 disposals and a goal a game throughout these championships so far. You can stick him on a half-forward flank and get his game moving. He's going to be super threatening around the stoppage in that forward 50. He is a good ball user. He will add another offensive threat to the Eagles, which they are going to need in a big way with what is looking like an even younger forward line next year with no Oscar Allen in there. They're going to be blooding Job Shanahan. They're going to be getting these guys games. He is another one that could add a touch of class, but more importantly, aggression, which he's got in spades, the South Australian, which I love. The Crows pull back the curtains. I'm so sorry. But Cody ends up here. Look, linking up with Daniel is, of course, a good thing. And a little bit like Daniel, figuring out where he could end up as a player might be a good thing. You've got Taylor Walker, who's not going to be there forever. If they do want to have the 3 tall structure and keep Daniel on a wing, well, Cody could be the guy to do that. If he's going to develop into a key defender, I know they do have a lot of those so far, but again, you can just store him away for a couple of years, see where you are at. The raw talent, the raw ability might be hard to ignore. The Crows don't need a whole lot in terms of the topping up of their list. I think Sam Cumming would be a really good pickup for them, but he's not available at this point in the draft. Lockie Doverston might be the way to go for them, considering that small forward prowess to allow Rankin and Rochelle to get more CBAs. But in terms of raw talent, raw ability, size, the fact you could store him away, there's no pressure to bring him on, Cody may be the go. He's got a good athletic profile, decent hands. I like him. Archie Ludewijk ends up at the Cats here. Liam Heatherton. You have also got Mitch Marsh. You've got tall forward options there that are going to be available to the Cats, who post Jeremy Cameron are going to need more than Shannon Neal and Ollie Henry to get the job done. I think blooding one as soon as they can is going to be an option. Now, you could also argue that they're just going to try and get one from another club, try and steal Ben King from Collingwood, potentially, or go get Jamaro. If they get Jamaro, of course, A, they're probably not going to have this pick anyway, and B, they're not going to need a tall forward. Until all of those things happen, though, tall forward works. Now, Archie didn't have the greatest first game of the National Championships, whereas Mitch Marsh has kicked 7 goals in 3 games. 8 goals in 3 games, I should say, if I can do my math properly. But Archie or Mitch, take your pick. I still like Archie. I still think he can bring the best out of himself in these National Championships. His contested marking, especially on the lead, is really good. He's a good kick for goal as well, and I just hope that he can find some top form come the end of the Championships. And last but not least for this iteration of the draft, we are going with Noah Chamberlain, the Sydney Star. Now, in the academy, well, in the Swans Academy, they're just going to get another good player here. And of course, they've still got Lockie Carmichael and Harry Kyle, who are going to come in through the academy highly likely. Kyle, maybe or maybe not, because considering they didn't take Joel Cochran, who I thought they were going to take last year as well. But in terms of what Chamberlain can do athletically, he can just do most things really well, can find the footy, use it pretty well, can defend a little bit as well. And I think, again, the Swans, they'll take their time in figuring out where his best position is going to be, playing with a bit of freedom with the Allies at the moment. But I think that raw potential, the raw talent there is going to suit the Swans, and he is going to finish. Now, there are so many more club-tied players that are available here. There are so many other players that have not been spoken about in this mock draft. I know all of those kind of things. I think this draft goes deeper than a lot of people give credit for. It may not be the superstar-worthy draft, but I definitely don't think it's as weak as being reported by other people. Could be wrong. We'll see how we go. But that is what I think, guys. What do you think? Comment below. Let me know. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe to join the Des Talks Footy family. And yeah, taking some time off when Bubs gets here. If that means it's this week, might not be a Hawks reaction to the North game. If so, I'll see you then. But have a good one. I appreciate all your support. And Daz the Dad coming soon. See ya.